The eyes of a dying draft can change a man. The Primevals is currently streaming on Shudder. It was written and directed by David Allen White, who did the visual effects for a lot of projects. Check out his IMDb page for the full listen and for a surprise in regards to this movie. And it was also written by Randall William Cook, which sounds like a name way too snooty to be involved in a production like this, but I digress. And it stars Juliet Mills. It stars Richard Joseph Paul, as well as Leon Russum, Walker Brandt, Eric Steinberg, Ty, had to, I'm sorry, as well as Robert Cornthwaite. Okay, so let's talk about the plot of this movie. Some explorers discovered that a Yeti may exist in the Himalayas, so they go up there, and then they find stuff that they never expected to encounter, including creatures that they didn't actually think existed on Earth at all. Okay, so let's talk about the production of this particular film, because this came out, well, actually was done all the way back in 1994. I will explain why it took so long for this to come out to a streaming service. So, this is done by Full Moon Studios, Full Moon Movies, Full Moon Pictures, whatever you want to call them. They did the Puppet Master movies and they've done other stuff. You can Google what they've done. They even did Subspecies. Remember that shit? Anyway, so yeah, a lot of fun facts about this particular thing before I dive into my thoughts about the movie. So it was delayed due to production issues and also the studio having financial issues. And the budget actually ended up ballooning up a lot more, I think, than the studio planned. You even had Charlie Band, who was a producer of this, or maybe the main producer of this. And it got shelved. And unfortunately, David Allen, may he rest in peace, died in 1999. So how the hell is this movie coming out now? Apparently it was an online crowdfunding thing. They just gathered on the information superhighway and said, we'll do this. It could have been a Kickstarter. It could have been a GoFundMe. I don't know. It's just an online starter. But you know what? People saw clips of this or stills of this and thought, yeah, we'll fund that. And you know what? A film being lost to time, getting brought to, I guess, kind of the modern age, shall we say, isn't the worst thing in the world. You can humorously, honor a director. I don't actually think that's how that goes. And yeah, a lot of people in this cast have been dead for a while. Robert died all the way back in 2006, and one of the original visual effects guys, Chris Endicott, he ended up working on this whole thing and finishing up the stop motion stuff. That's actually one of the main reasons I wanted to check this out, was to see, okay, after 30 years, is this something that was absolutely worth, diving into? Is this something that was worth the crowdfunding and all that? But now we have this film. We have this on a streaming service, and you can tell the parts were, I guess, an original print of a lot of the movie. Had some damage on it, so they had to, go through a restoration process. You can tell where a lot of the original footage is and where some of the more modern footage is. And for this, I can respect the fact that this movie exists, because stop motion animation is very fucking difficult to do. And a labor of love from David Allen. Apparently he wanted to do this all the way back in 1967, and I guess was trying to get it working even in the 70s and the 80s. That's why, movies like The Day Time Ended, Laser Blast. Yeah, the guy worked on fucking Laser Blast. Which actually kind of explains a lot when you see this movie. He also did The Howling. And he also did The Hunger. He did Trancers. The Stuff. Oh boy. That movie. I almost feel like I should retro-review that, but I remember not liking it. Willow and the Puppet Master franchise, or at least some of them. So, let's get started on this whole thing. Okay. I appreciate the fact that this film exists. It's nice to have a bit of a time capsule film, shall we say. And it's really, really cool that this thing is on a streaming service. The stop motion animation is pretty goddamn nice, and there's an endearing, inoffensive quality about this. It's like if the Mole People and other monster movies from the 50s, mixed with Ray Harryhausen stuff, Human Centipede together, was brought, into full-on color, full-on craziness. Yes, Ray Harryhausen did, color, but you get my point. It's taking stuff from really, almost the before times and bringing it here. The acting is some of the worst goddamn stuff I have seen in a while. I mean, even by 1994 standards for an independent film, Jesus, tap dancing Christ, terrible characters, even with the inoffensive, endearing quality. I mean, I'm glad that people were able to see this film, people that are still alive from this production, they were able to see it brought onto a streaming service so it could live on. But besides the opening, which is all right, and a little bit of stuff near the end, I mean, it's a breezy film, but Jesus, I mean, gee, there's just endless padding and just stuff that you've seen time and time before. Even just taking out the last 30 years of film, like, stuff that we've seen, restored prints of stuff from the 50s and everything, stuff that MST3K has done. This is better than Laser Blast, I'll say that much. And Laser Blast had a halfway decent idea. This kind of reminds me of the day time ended. I'm sorry, but this was not for me. I appreciate what they did. I appreciate the fact that they got restored. Great for them. This movie is shit. This is not fucking good. Not good at all. I am willing to be killed in the goddamn comments for it, as I didn't expect much. But man, besides that opening, besides a little bit of stuff near the end, it just was so goddamn silly and so goddamn bullshit. It was what it was, and at least it's something that isn't going to leave a bad taste in your mouth unless you try to stomach the acting. And you can tell where they were just stretching and really, really trying to pad this fucking thing out. There are ideas that are never fully explored. There are, a couple things in the opening minutes that at least kind of pay off a little bit later. But these characters just kind of exist. It almost seems to exist in its own universe. I mean, I think even if I saw this when I was 13 years old, I would have said, what the fuck is this? And I'm not a person that hates, any movie that looks cheap. That's not even the problem. The problem isn't the stop motion. Stop motion animation is timeless. You can still appreciate the stuff. The stuff from that horror movie stop motion was pretty good. Nightmare Before Christmas and even other films that cost less than this, you can still appreciate the stop motion. But it doesn't make the movie good. It doesn't make it good at all. That's that line that I open with, by the way, the eyes of a dying giraffe can change a man. That is actually something that people thought, yeah, that's good to leave in there. By the way, Leon Russum's name, his character name in this is Rondo, Montana. He's an explorer named Rondo, Montana. There is not much to spoil in this because the people that you expect to survive do, and it is what it is. But yeah, check it out if you want. I mean, maybe you'll appreciate this. I can appreciate what they were trying to do and all the stuff I mentioned. But nevertheless, 3, 2, 1, and spoilers. They find an alien race in the mountains. That's it. Hidden, an ancient alien race that has been using Yetis basically to inflict damage upon society. Or at least anybody stupid enough to climb up the fucking Himalayan mountains. So, yeah, what a time capsule. Good job, lady. This one lady, Walker Brent, Kathleen, who I have to say, boy, back then, Walker Brent, my goodness, my goodness. So, nevertheless, got this one guy killed. This one Yeti then got captured. And, yeah, they were checking his brain for scientific purposes. It was in a jar, a gigantic brain in a jar, like it's Futurama. And they find out there's lesions on the brain, and they're wondering what the hell's going on. And, oh, this is the cerebral cortex. There's all this stuff that's causing them to go violent. I know that brains traditionally, are kind of like there are bigger brains, smaller brains, and no brains when it comes to how some people believe, ideologically. But we just know this by looking at this brain. Yes, clearly, it is something, something ancient was done to this thing, and it's a bad technique, and we need to go and explore this stuff, but nobody will fund it. Except Dr. Claire Collier, Juliet Mills. Yeah, I'll take a leave of absence, and we're going to get something from, let's see, check notes. Yeah, the Pentagon, or the Paragon Publishing Company, Corporation, thing, something. By the way, Robert was in this as a doctor. By the way, he lived like 12 years after this, and he looked like he was on death's door at this point. That's mean, but I'm sorry. Whatever. They want to unlock the mysteries of the Yeti, so they go up and then endless padding. They run into Kathleen. They run into this guy, Sicko. played by Tai Tai or Siku or Saiku or Psycho Sid Su, Susu Studio. So nevertheless, they go up the mountains, they find a Yeti, then the Yeti runs off, and then they end up finding a weird, they find a weird alien thing, like this, it's like some kind of weird little deals popping out of the ground, like it's an observatory. But then they fall in, and after a long time, they eventually run into the aliens. And I know that worked in the 50s, and maybe even to an extent the 60s. You gotta pick things up here. You can only do so much throwback stuff before you have to get the shit moving. And then they got to the aliens, and I'm like, nope, I take back what I said. Go back to the exploring. The eyes of a dying giraffe can change a man. Who wrote this shit? I mean, I know I mentioned it, but nevertheless. I did laugh at the blue filtered night and the day for night shooting and some of the stuff. Sometimes they didn't even try. I know budgetary constraints. I'm sorry. And they end up going into this one cave. It's like forced perspective Skull Mountain. And these aliens are there, and 100,000 years ago they arrived. But apparently the smart ones died, and only the primal ones were left, and they basically took over. And then they captured our heroes. That didn't last very long. It didn't last very long because they're not very good at capturing. They were able to control Yetis by shooting a laser gun at them, but they couldn't keep these blithering idiots captured. They had Rondo, Montana, again, the actual name, on a goddamn torture rack. And they couldn't keep them captured. Oh yes, and a little bit earlier, there was this really bad attempt at a theft scene, like a robbery scene, and Mr. Montana, Rondo Montana that is, stopped them, beat them up in some of the worst editing I have seen. I know, cheap, but come on. Don't bother doing a scene if you can't even show it. Nevertheless, we see him hand Matthew a knife. Matthew uses his knife to free himself. Then there's this Roman alien Colosseum thing where this Yeti gets shot with this laser, and he's getting primal and primeval and all that. It's like Primal Rage if Primal Rage was made by an idiot. I'm sorry, I know the director's dead, but seriously. I mean, fucking seriously at some point. Nevertheless, I'm sure that the vision was used by, or was, seen through by the visual effects director and whoever else did it. And look, they tried. They tried, bless it, they tried to make this film. Oh my God, did they try, but this film should be locked and institution. So, the Yeti ends up helping them, but ends up dying. The doctor ends up getting gut shot by an arrow, but she's fine to get back almost to the entrance, which it would require them to climb out, either up the rocks or up a rope that they would somehow have to throw 80 feet up and hook on something. But nevertheless, the doctor has also been doing recordings, audio recordings on tape, because that's how long ago it was, and also drawings. And she wants Matthew to tell her story, basically. So Matthew ends up shooting the laser gun at this wall that's trapping this water, and then the aliens get flooded out. I guess. I don't know why I'm judging this movie when I know it must have been so hard to make, but it's just, good God. So anyway, the doctor ends up dying after basically telling everybody, and I think I'll miss you most of all, Scarecrow. She might as well have said that, and then they head off for the night. And I guess everything's okay. I mean, they got their supplies. He's got his laser or his alien audio recording thing where he saw an alien hologram deal. Admittedly, some of the special effects aren't bad. I mean, restored or not. Like, they're not awful, but just there's so much dead air and bad acting and just bad dialogue. Like, inoffensive, yes, but Jesus, some of this movie. Wouldn't have even worked back in 94. So yeah, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I appreciate the effort, but just overall movie quality is just not good. It's not good. I'll probably get killed in the comments. I don't really care, because these are my opinions. I'm not telling you don't watch it. You watch all you want. You can appreciate all you want. It just didn't work for me. So, agree, disagree, what I said, like, share, subscribe, Twitter, Letterboxd, and Blue Sky handles in the description. I'm John Ritlin. I'll see you soon.